Ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, welcome back to yet another episode of Crypto Over Coffee. I hope you're doing well today. And if you're new here, every Saturday we start off the weekend right by breaking down the latest news and the hottest topics in the world of technology and cryptocurrency over a cup of delicious coffee. Now, in today's episode, we've got a whole lot of good stuff coming, including the new Bitcoin all-time high price news and some analysis there. We've got some information about NFTs, Ripple, yes, Ripple, and of course our 404 logic not found segment, plus a whole lot of other stuff that you probably want to hear about, so make sure you stick around. But before we get into all of that, let's kick it off with questions from you, the amazing folks who watch my channel. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those questions up now to answer. But if you want one of your questions answered, make sure you leave them in the comments down below, tweet me at Hashoshi4, or join the official Hashoshi Discord, which will be linked down below. And if you would be so inclined, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification button along with it, so you can get a heads up whenever I post new content. So let's go on the iPad and check these questions out. Now, the first question of the day is from Jalil Gozada. Thanks for your efforts. Thank you for watching. Regarding Bitcoin's max supply cap, what if the community decides to change the code? Now, this is a question that comes up all the time, and it comes up in the media especially, where they say, oh, well, if people agree to change it, it can change. And the answer is that is true. But based on all of the current, the current trends, and based off of the current ravenous community behind Bitcoin Core, as it's been called now, the likelihood of a protocol change that includes a change in the maximum supply is extremely unlikely. And in the unlikely event that the supply did change, it would likely change only marginally to move the supply back to a total of 21 million, because there's so many Bitcoins that have been lost over the years by people losing their wallets, losing their coins, but I don't think that's going to happen. Any protocol, that does do this, that changes the code, would likely be considered a fork, not unlike Bitcoin Cash, not unlike Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, which we all know, and then all the other ones that have happened. There's so many different forks that you don't even know about, or that you don't even hear about in the Bitcoin world. And so if you look at it from that perspective, any change to the protocol that is really different than what you see now in Bitcoin Core would likely be a fork, because there'd be such a significant amount of people who would want to keep that supply at 21 million capped total. So it's possible, but it would be a fork. And even if it did happen, I don't think it would change a whole lot in terms of Bitcoin Core as we know it. Thank you so much for your question. Now, the second question of the day is from CryptoRX. Hey, Hashoshi, I know this is a question that has a ton of variables and may be tough to answer, but from what you know, which project is further along in development, Cardano or Polkadot? Thanks as always. Now, this question is indeed hard, and there are very many variables, like you said. But I think that when I look at this question and I look at the comparison between Polkadot and Cardano, I actually think they're in a relatively similar place. I think that Polkadot's vision might be a little grander, and it might be something that has not yet really been done before, in terms of building an interoperability protocol and a core, a ledger SDK, if you will, to help new blockchains be created and join this Polkadot ecosystem. Whereas Cardano is trying to very much play in a space that we have seen before, which is being a smart contract development network where you can implement decentralized applications and you can transact and you can truly own your cryptocurrency assets, whether that be tokens, non-fungible tokens, etc. I think, though, that the main differentiating point right now is that Polkadot has completed some of the core work on the WebAssembly, you could say the scripting or smart contract proportion of their protocol, and they're still missing a lot of other critical things, and it's coming to fruition. I think Cardano is still working on getting that out into mainnet, which should change in 2021. There should be the Goguen update making its way into reality. I think you can't compare these two projects apples to apples, though, because I don't even think, if you want to carry this analogy, I don't even think they're both fruits. It would be like comparing apples to Brussels sprouts. Both are good if you like that kind of thing, but they aren't similar enough to compare. But in terms of development, they're both in a very similar place. They're missing some of those critical features and functionalities that will bring them over the hump, but they're not quite there yet. So thank you so much for your question. The next question is from Galen. Hey dude, are there any recommendations you'd give to an aspiring blockchain developer who's looking to hop industries? Have you performed more contract work or ever had full-time employment in the field? So personally, I've worked full-time in the blockchain space, in the tech space related to blockchain and crypto for 6 years now almost. And it's been an amazing time. I really, really have enjoyed every minute of it. And I think that if you're someone who's trying to hop industries, if you're not yet in tech, it's a little bit harder. Like the path is longer. It's possible and it's actually very attainable, but it's a different path. If you're already in tech, then I would suggest that you start in your own company or even on the side, starting to take coursework online, whether that be for programming or just the business foundations of blockchain. And there are so many different places to do that. You can do that on your own, for free, really, using stuff like cryptozombies.io to learn Solidity, programming language. If you already have some programming skills, you can use BlockGeeks, Binance Academy, and all these other online services and places that have so much good information to learn and to develop your skills for free. But then you can also pay for courses like B9 Lab, one of the best certification programs for a variety of different blockchain protocols from a tech perspective that I've ever seen. I would highly recommend it. It's not cheap, but it actually prepares you to be a real employee that contributes to projects and pieces of technology in the industry. So B9 Lab is the best certification program, bar none, hands down. Definitely check them out. So if you have any questions, though, you can feel free to email me. I try my best to give personalized advice to the greatest account, but I don't want you to have to share your personal information with folks on the channel. Thank you. So the next question is from Maddie Graham. Thank you for your succinct crypto information. I cannot speak today. Thank you very much. Is it a good idea to buy tokens from both sides of a hard fork or both blocks of a hard fork? So I guess here's the answer in short. I'm generally not a fan of buying a forked cryptocurrency. And the reason for that is most of the time when there is a fork, most of the time, there are exceptions to the rule. Most of the time when there's a fork, the subsequent cryptocurrency that comes out, that's the contentious side, the side that wants to change the protocol, oftentimes ends up being the weaker protocol, often. More so in the realm of Bitcoin. You could argue that in Ethereum, the classic chain that had the old rules that left the DAO hack intact became the weaker chain, whereas Ethereum that forked away and rolled back was the stronger chain. That's one of the exceptions. But I think when you're buying forks, you have to understand how easy it is in some cases to actually make a fork and realize how often it is that forks happen, that realistically, you're not always going to get a win from forks. And actually, from a regulatory perspective, forks are a big black hole. And I don't think around the world, tax treatment and regulatory treatment and all that sort of thing, I don't think they have any clue how to deal with it. So just bear in mind, I wouldn't personally buy into a fork. Most of the time, you're going to get coins from a fork if you've already been on it before. But hopefully that answers your question. I know it's kind of a nebulous topic, but thank you so much for your question. And this is the last question of the day, and it is from Kevron Creates. What do you think is an underappreciated aspect of blockchain and crypto? And this is a great question. I think the thing that drew me the most when way back when, 10, 11 years, maybe even, I guess 11 years now ago, I read the Bitcoin white paper on StumbleUpon. I was in a class, I wasn't paying attention, and I'm reading the Bitcoin white paper, and it just pulled me in. And the reason why it pulled me in is because separate and apart from the technology part, which I'm interested in, separate and apart from the digital currency, the mission, right? The idea that you want to have non-state-owned currency that people can have access to around the world, the unification, the positive net benefit of it, all that stuff aside, it's very interesting because every blockchain protocol that is designed to facilitate the transaction of digital assets, which is basically every single one, they are all huge studies of psychology, game theory, and economics. And I think that is the thing that's underneath every protocol decision, every protocol design, is all of that economic study and the psychological study. How will users attempt to break this? How will users that aren't attempting to break this break it by accident? How can we secure proof of stake, understanding the way people think and the way we can protect against Sybil attacks? Those are the things that I think are underrated. And it's this study, which I think has become its own study, and there needs to be a name for it. There needs to be a name for it, almost like, I guess, decentralized network or cryptographic game theory, where you are designing protocols, understanding that there is no central authority, there is no central control, and you have to protect all these different attack vectors. I think it's really fascinating. And I think that is the thing that's going to be a sort of a result of the blockchain space and the crypto space translating to other technology industries and silos, understanding how the protocols we love do this thing and protect data and reach consensus across distributed systems. That's going to start getting used in other places. And I think that is the underrated thing, or the oft unseen part of blockchain and crypto that I think is really fascinating. So hopefully that answers your question, and really appreciate all the questions, folks. Keep them coming. So let's go ahead and dive into the news section. Now, it is unfortunate that I have to even say this for a second week in a row, but I want to warn everyone that's watching of an increasing amount of pervasive scammers flooding my social channels and trying to scam people like you. On every single video, copycat YouTube accounts that take my name and profile picture reply to your legit comments, which I appreciate, by the way, to try and get you to contact them on WhatsApp and Instagram, or to just post about a cryptocurrency. These are not me, and folks that have sent me a message to ask if it's me, thank you, that's great. Please report any of these that you see. Most comments that I respond to, I will also put a heart. You'll see the heart there. And secondly, my name is highlighted when I reply to your comments, so you know it's me, and it's only me that has the highlighted name and can give hearts. So please keep your wits about you and know that I will never comment to you to contact me on WhatsApp about some Bitcoin opportunity or anything like that. Secondly, I'm working hard to filter and remove the annoying other spam comments about Instagram and stuff, but it's a full-time job to keep up with, and I have a full-time job plus other things going on, so please bear with me on that. I'm trying my best, so thank you. And for those who are new here, every week in partnership with the folks at Cobo, they make the awesome Cobo Vault wallet, in case you're not aware, I'll be giving away a Cobo Steel seed phrase backup device in every episode from here on out. So all you have to do is enter a comment in the video down below, and I will put you in the running for a random draw. And then I pick a winner each week. Now, just for transparency, the product is only available in the US, Canada, and Europe. So if you win and you're from another region, I'm just going to send you some Bitcoin instead. Now, the winner of last week's giveaway by random draw for the Cobo is here on the screen. So a big congratulations to you. And of course, I will be in touch to get you your prize. Now, as we always do, let's just jump right in with some Bitcoin price analysis and news. And the first thing I want to say is this. To all Bitcoin holders, believers, and evangelists, we have arrived at the first major destination that we've been waiting for a long time. On Christmas Day, we broke above 25K per Bitcoin, and it's pretty cool, that little 25 thing going on, a price at which the overall market capitalization of Bitcoin eclipsed the oft compared Visa Payment Network's market capitalization of 460 billion US dollars. This, in and of itself, is a relatively meaningless statistic in the scheme of price movement and predicting it in the future. But what it does indicate is that the Bitcoin market pool is getting larger. More money is flowing in, and Bitcoin has attracted as much capital as one of the biggest payment networks on Earth in Visa, and that is significant. Now, for those who said Bitcoin was dead 100 times, or promised that it wouldn't work, or said it was a bubble, there's just one indicator here, right here, of how wrong they were, among other things. Now, if you look at the rather consistent stream of new all-time highs for Bitcoin that we've seen recently, one might wonder how sustainable this growth is going forward, and fears of a pullback are likely starting to brew. Here are my thoughts on that matter. As long as institutions like MicroStrategy or Grayscale are constantly and consistently evangelizing and, of course, investing in Bitcoin, and new retail investors are starting to come into the market still, I think the price growth can be sustained. However, if there is a slow period of growth in the market in terms of interest and demand, or there's a big sell-off from miners, that could cause a pullback. Now, ironically, evidence has shown that miners today are not selling as much as people thought they would at these all-time highs. So maybe that's an indicator of sustained upward price movement, or at least belief amongst miners that that's continuously where we're going. Of course, these are just general thoughts, not predictions, but I think it's very important to understand how macro trends can influence Bitcoin's price overall, and I remain extremely excited and bullish for what's to come in 2021. Now, this next story could have been a 404 logic not found, the 404 logic not found for the day, but it narrowly missed out on that designation. It appears that the relationship between Ripple and MoneyGram is rather fickle after all, despite the consistent claims to the contrary. In light of the recent SEC action against Ripple that reportedly claims the XRP coin was offered as an unregistered security offering, MoneyGram, often used as an example of Ripple's path to adoption, clarified its relationship with Ripple's products. Now, this was their statement that I guess was intended to clear themselves of any connection to the SEC probe, and I quote, "As a reminder, MoneyGram does not utilize the ODL platform or RippleNet for direct transfers of customer funds, or consumer funds, digital or otherwise. Furthermore, MoneyGram is not a party to the SEC action. MoneyGram has continued to utilize its other traditional FX trading counterparties throughout the term of the agreement with Ripple and is not dependent on the Ripple platform to accomplish its FX trading needs." Now, what I think is so telling in this statement is that despite the significant investment from Ripple in MoneyGram, MoneyGram has not yet and does not seem to be gung-ho about starting to adopt Ripple's products, including those that utilize XRP as the cryptocurrency. Now, I don't think that MoneyGram is the key to Ripple's success, and overall this isn't a huge deal in terms of the long-term strategy, but it's a concerning trend that one of the major strategic partners that's touted by Ripple aficionados is starting to look a little bit hollow. And a lot of this is still up in the air. A lot of things are not yet known, especially about the SEC probe, so it's hard to say what the future holds, but it's very interesting nonetheless, and I'll be following it really closely to see what happens. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for 404 Logic Not Found, and for those of you who are as of yet uninitiated in this little firecracker of a segment, I highlight notable tech-related fails or otherwise stupid moves in the world that need to get some attention. And speaking of attention, if you want to help this video get some attention from the YouTube algorithm, please do hit that like button and get subscribed. Most of the people that watch this channel aren't yet subscribed, and I appreciate your viewership and would love if you subscribed, because it tells the YouTube robots that you're enjoying the content, and for that, I thank you in advance. Now, today's absence of logic is brought to you by the folks at Ledger. Again, that's a joke. Ledger did not sponsor this episode. Ledger's simple mistake, quote unquote, led to a massive 270,000 person database of Ledger wallet customers being leaked on the web by hackers. And that's a big data breach. Now, the irony of a company who makes hardware to protect users from hackers being hacked themselves is not lost on me. And while I do own Ledger wallets, this has dissolved my trust in their company. Now, I understand human error is part of being human and humans run companies, but there are best practices that any tech company can put in place to mitigate a single human being or group of human beings' mistakes from becoming a massive data breach. And based on what I've been able to read about what caused the data breach in the first place with Ledger's hardware wallet customer database, those safeguards were not put into place. Not only that, I don't see how Ledger will avoid Europe's GDPR compliance fines for their negligence in this situation, or their reported negligence in this situation. Of course, this is still unfolding. Originally, Ledger tried to downplay this whole thing a while back by saying less than 10,000 users were affected by the breach based on their analysis of logs. Then it came to light later that this was way, way bigger than previously imagined. Massively bigger. The media can chalk this up to rapid growth or legacy processes that never got updated or whatever you want, any excuse in the book, but it's unacceptable and it puts every single one of the customers in that database at risk for increased attempts for SIM swaps, phishing attempts to their email, and even potentially attention or risk at their physical address, which was part of the leak for many customers. Now, I cannot stress enough how irresponsible it is that companies in this modern era continuously store personal information related to customers after the time of delivery of goods. And this is not isolated to Ledger, everyone does it. But Ledger's a great example now of why this is a huge problem the entire e-commerce industry needs to solve. It should be noted that if you are part of this data breach, and you should check if you were, and you've bought anything from Ledger in the past, you're probably part of it. You need to do a few things now. First, consider changing your cell phone number, or if that's too much trouble, and I understand why, at the very least, ensure that every single account you have does not use SMS two-factor authentication. Move all those two-factor authentication things over to Google Authenticator or a YubiKey and call your self-service provider and request a SIM lock. Second, go through each email related to crypto with a fine-tooth comb. Every email you receive, read things 3 times. Watch out for phishing. They're going to come after you. And those 2 things are critical to protect yourself from the common scams. Now, Ledger's going to have to do a whole lot to win back trust from people, if possible at this point. I don't even know. I don't know what else to say on this matter, but 404 logic not found. Now, in other news, what I think could be a really fruitful partnership was just recently announced between Ultra and Elrond, with the former being one of the predominant forces in bringing the blockchain world and its benefits to the gaming industry and other entertainment sectors, and the latter being a scalable layer 1 blockchain protocol that just recently made its way into mainnet with much fanfare. Now, this partnership will enable interoperability between the 2 networks and will allow crypto collectibles issued on the Ultra network to be bought and sold for eGold, the native cryptocurrency on Elrond. Furthermore, the burgeoning DeFi protocols on the Elrond blockchain will be able to take advantage of non-fungible tokens or crypto collectibles that are issued on Ultra in the Ultra ecosystem to use as collateral for lending, for example, within DeFi protocols, among many other probably new and creative things you can do there. Now, the more options there are in the market for scalable issuance, exchange, and application of crypto collectibles across the market, the better, because this competition is going to force more and more innovation and more creativity in this super critical sector. NFTs and gaming will likely be one of the major pathways to adoption for non-crypto users, people who don't know about crypto today, and it's going to be a place where one doesn't have to really realize they're using blockchains, but they are nonetheless, and that's the path to adoption for the normies, quote unquote, to move into crypto. Now, if we stay in the NFT lane for a second, there is another cool project issuing NFTs or crypto collectibles as part of a big business pivot, really, during the global lockdowns as a result of the virus. The international brand Space Yacht, famous for organizing hundreds of EDM or electronic dance music events every single year, made a pivot in their business model this year to start a record label and to distribute music for people that would normally perform in these events. And given that events today are not really happening right now, they had to do this. Now, as part of that change, Space Yacht used the awesome Nifty Gateway marketplace to issue and sell tokenized digital art, which in its first offering recently sold hundreds of units within minutes. Now, after the first offering, of course, Space Yacht began preparing a second round of digital art to distribute as tokens, which will reportedly go live this coming Wednesday, December 30th, if everything goes according to plan. Now, I expect this launch to sell just as fast as the first one, and it just goes to show that the NFT space is the one to watch in 2021. DeFi and NFTs are going to continue to cross paths to great effect, and it's going to be great, but people love collectibles, both physical and digital, and that's not going to change in my opinion. This is good for crypto. Now, I know this next story is a local story, and most people might not necessarily care about it because it's not close to them, but it's a nice story, so what the heck. Now, just recently in the US, the Miami, Florida mayor, Francis Suarez, took to the podium in his state to discuss the exploration of making Miami the first ever crypto-centric municipal government, during which he mentioned blockchain-based voting and tokenization as concepts of interest. Of course, talking about this is one thing, doing it is a totally different and much more difficult thing. But I think it's the first time I've heard grassroots politicians and municipalities talking about these concepts in any meaningful way that also includes some type of plan or sophistication and understanding of what blockchain and crypto can do. I really do hope that Mayor Suarez can at least implement one fraction of the ideas that he presented, because I would love to see a US city start to take a leading role in the adoption of crypto and blockchain technology to spur on others to do the same. Now, with that, folks, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Crypto Over Coffee. Hope your family's holiday season has been really wonderful and restful, and I will of course leave another one of my videos here up on the screen in case you have time to stick around. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate all the minutes you spend. And until next time, cheers.